Hi folks, my name is Boone Brown and I am the Chief Instructor and Owner here at Ancient Ways Martial Arts Academy. You know, there's not a day that goes by that someone doesn't bring their child to us or reach out to us and say, our child has this particular problem and we heard you could help us with it. And absolutely guys, we can help with a plethora of problems, and those problems are variable and wide ranging. Sometimes parents bring us a child that they say needs more confidence. Some have anxiety attacks. Some have impulse control issues. Some have a poor ability to focus, although normally they focus on what they want to pretty well. They just don't focus on what the parents want them to focus on. Sometimes it's grades in school, sometimes it's behavior in school, sometimes they're ADD and ADHD, sometimes they're in the autism spectrum, sometimes they have anger issues. No matter what it is, guys, martial arts seems to be that one of those activities that tends to make things level out and be a bit more moderate. Especially for children and for adults too. Our youngest students, 3, our oldest is in their 70s. And so we help out everybody that we possibly can. Now, I get to see a lot of really great parents every day, and I see some that want to be great parents but are lacking the tools to do so. And it's not uncommon for us to have parents come to us after their child's been to 4 or 5 classes and go, why isn't it helping them yet? And so, it takes time. This is not a pill you take and suddenly your child's chill. Okay, it takes a little bit of time. But B, we got to all be working together. And so there are certain things that we do as martial arts instructors that help to keep the child motivated and moving forward and help to make them feel better about themselves and empower them, that we need to make sure that you're doing with us too. And so this video is for you. This is for those parents who have the desire to be great parents and want more tools in their toolbox. And I hope you have plenty. If you don't, maybe these are a few more. Maybe you already know these, but it never hurts to have a white belt mindset and listen and maybe learn something you didn't know. Now you may go, hey, what are your qualifications? Guys, I have children of my own that are almost grown, as well as having taught martial arts for 37 years. I taught a bunch of stuff, but as well as martial arts. I have a degree in education and I have a master's degree in recreational therapy, so this is exactly what I do. I spend a lot of time talking to families and kids and helping them with their issues and helping them to find a middle ground so that they can work through their problems together. And so those are my qualifications. Hopefully that's good enough for you. But let me first talk to you a little bit about how we do things in martial arts, and then I'll connect it to the way that we can do things at home too. Okay guys, so let's talk about positive reinforcement. When a child messes up here, we ignore it. We almost never make mention of it. And instead, we focus on the things that they're doing right. And you got to keep in mind, a child is new to being a human being. They're living their lives mostly on instinct and are trying to take in everything that they see. So they don't have the control over their body that you and I have. And that applies to balance. That includes keeping their hands up, having the strength to keep their hands up. That includes keeping their knees bent when they're in stance. It includes chambering the leg and extending the leg properly and recoiling it, and the same with the punches. It includes keeping their body still. It includes keeping their eyes focused. And so all of this is new to them, and especially in this environment, it can be really awkward at first, and it takes time. Now, what do you think is going to happen if we scold them every time they do it wrong? Well, A, first of all, they're going to hate coming here because all they ever get is criticism when they're here. And B, we are doing little bitty dents and pieces of damage to their subconscious. And it could create, eventually, in the long term, a really bad case of self-loathing. Dr. Joyce Brothers, famous child psychiatrist, says probably one of the worst things that can happen to us in our lives is develop our self-loathing to a point to where we just don't feel like we deserve to be happy or successful or good at anything. And so I think it's important for us to make sure that we do everything we can to empower the children, which is what martial arts is really supposed to be all about. Now, some of us are very coachable, and some of us not so much. As students get in higher belt ranks, they become more and more coachable because they realize the reason I'm here is not for you to tell me that I'm doing things great, it's to make me better. And you can make me better by being more critical of me. But until they get to that point, we sugarcoat things. And there's really specific ways we do this. You can do the same things at home, and it'll definitely make things a whole lot better. But remember, focus on positive reinforcement, not negative. We don't want to be the big punishers. Instead, we want to be the influencers. I don't want to be an authority figure. I want to influence my students and my children. And so here's how we get there. Now you may be saying, but you can't just let the things go that they're doing wrong. You're absolutely right, and we don't. but we praise and correct in a different way. And so when we make corrections to a student, we have a variety of methods that we do it, ways that are less impactful to the subconscious. And it's going to seem a little manipulative and underhanded when you first hear about it, because this is after 100 years of study. We know more today about medical science and mathematics and the world and psychology and child development than we've ever known in our history. And so these are the tactics that all child psychiatrists have proven scientifically work best for children. And so first off, guys, one of our tactics is called proximity praise. Johnny, awesome hands. And then I move on. Well, guess what the rest of the class is now doing? They're all checking their hand position. And all I did was point out one kid. Now, guys, we never, ever reprimand publicly, very seldom, unless we just slip. But usually if I have to reprimand a student for whatever they're doing, I go over and act like I'm tying their belt, and then I whisper in their ear, I need to see better behavior. Can I see your good blue bell behavior, or whatever bell rank they are, or wolf pack behavior, or guardian behavior, or whatever it is. If it's really bad, I'll definitely take them off the floor, pull the parents aside, and we'll have a discussion. But in most cases, the praising works. Now, with the little kids, the preschoolers, we refer to them oftentimes as mirror lickers or butt spinners or whatever, and they're little squirrely kids, and they're supposed to be, and you can't be mad at that. And the way we correct their behavior is that we redirect. So let's say you got a kid who is touching another kid. All right, you got to keep your hands to yourself, and they're going to get there. It's going to take some time, but right now he's building everything based on his instincts. So I go over and I go, oh man, I need these rings stacked up. Jimmy, come here and help me with this. And then Jimmy helps me stack up the rings, and then I get to praise him for it. Now, in the future, what type of behavior am I going to get? The type of behavior that I praise, or the type of behavior that I react to. So if I reacted to him poking the other kid, guess what I'm going to get more of? Poking the other kid. But if instead I react to him helping me do something, I'm going to get a more helpful kid. And I get to praise him, which is cool. And you have to be a good finder. It's like being a treasure hunter. You look for those moments when they're doing something that deserves just a little bit of praise, and give them a high five, make them feel great. Use their name, make eye contact, and appropriate touch. That's our big tricks right there. Now, we have other tactics that we use too, not just proximity praise. Another one we do is called highlighting. So let's say I got a big class going on, and I go, man, this group over here has got really, really good yells. The rest of the class is now going to intensify their yells and get going a little bit more. Now, one of our favorites is called praise, correct praise, and we have a variation of it that we call praise, permission, correct praise, and we use that one primarily for our adults and our peers. But PCP, as we call it, stands for, well, I'll give you an example. I got a little girl named Sarah. She's got her hands down here, but she's got a good stance. And I go, wow, Sarah, that is an awesome stance. Now let's get those hands up a little bit higher. Now you look like a warrior. Give me a high five, that a girl. And I move on. I praised her for her stance first. I corrected her hands. And then I praised her again afterwards for looking like a warrior and gave her a high five. If instead I said, Sarah, get your hands up, she would get her hands up, and then as I walk away, she might do something like this. Because all I was doing was being authoritative. I was being mean. It's in her mind because she's a little kid. She doesn't get that. But the praise, correct praise works. Praise, permission, correct praise I use with my adults. And let's say that I got John over there and he's doing this one technique and he's missing up this one thing. I go, John, it's really, really good. Your footwork looks great. Can I tell you something that might make it a little bit better? Like he's going to say no, right? So then I go, okay, let's make sure we get that block check back fist in there. Don't leave out that back fist. That's going to really help you to get that opening that you want for throwing your knee or your elbow or whatever we're doing afterwards. And now try it, and then he tries it, and I praise him again. So I praised, asked permission to correct him, corrected him, and then praised him again. Now, eventually, all students get to a point where they're completely coachable, and that's what they're here for. And I'll actually have some of the adults go, hey, you don't have to tell me what I'm doing right. Tell me what I need to improve, because they're not here any longer to make themselves feel good. They're here to see that massive improvement. Now, as well as using praise to help our students, we have a reward system that's built into place too. And so a lot of it has to do with the belts. That's why we walked over here. The belts are huge. Students get a tip every month, and we warriors, they get one every class if they're good and following directions. And those tips are based on their curriculum here. So they have orange tip material, blue tip material, red tip material, and black tip material. And once they've done those things, they earn those tips, and that qualifies them to go on to their next belt rank. Now, guys, you may think, oh, so what? That tip, that belt is huge. It is a physical reward that they get for doing things the right way. It is so completely empowering. Now think about it. You know people that have gone to the gym and they get started on their workout and a month later they're not going anymore. What if instead they're hitting the treadmill and they hit a certain mile point, and somebody comes over and goes, hey, this yellow sweatband, you can wear that now because it tells everybody here that you've done 1,000 miles or however many, whatever you want to be. And when you do another 1,000, we're going to give you an orange one. Well, now you got some physical motivation to go, and everybody, look, I got my yellow one. All the parents, oh, you got a yellow one. I want a yellow one. And you'd be surprised how much more motivating it would be to go and hit that treadmill. Maybe you can do it yourself. You don't need someone to give it to you. You can just go buy yourself a new wristband whenever you hit 1,000 miles, and that would help you stay motivated. But that's just some of our tricks to get the students motivated to keep them moving forward. And that reward system is built in there as well. All right, so now let's go a little bit further. Now I know there's probably a few of you going, well, my parents used the switch and I turned out just fine. Did you? Are you sure? I mean, we know more about child development today than we've ever known in all of human history. And just because our parents did things a certain way doesn't mean that we don't have tools today that we could use that they had no knowledge of. Guys, do you want a doctor to do surgery on you using only the tools and methods from 40 years ago when you were a child being raised by your parents? I would really like for us to use modern day equipment and modern knowledge. I think that would be better. And so I think that the same goes for your kids. Another question too, just because you think you turned out okay, do you want your kids to be as good as you or better than you? Oh my God, I hope you want them to have the opportunity to improve over what situation you found yourself in. I know I do. I want my kids to not have half of the struggles that I have in their lives. And so that's why Jamie and I work so hard to do everything we can to make sure we're using the tools properly. Now, let's talk about why kids behave the way that they do. Number one, they yearn for attention, particularly yours, because you're the most important person in their life. And here's the scary part. They don't care if the attention is good or bad. That yearning is subconscious. They don't care if they're getting praise and love and hugs or if they're getting spankings, because in their mind, they're still getting, or not in their mind, their subconscious, they're still getting attention, and that attention gives them power. So let's say you got a kid who's misbehaving and you react to it. Johnny, stop that. What are you doing? What's he going to do more of now? Look at the reaction I got from Dad. I got attention from Dad. Dad's mad. Now I'm going to do it more. He's not thinking this. That's what his subconscious does. And this is why oftentimes when we punish children, they get worse and worse and worse. But instead, if I say, oh, Johnny's doing that thing again. Hey, Johnny, come over here. Let's pick out a book. I'll read it to you. Now I redirected Johnny away from that, back to the library, doing something we all need to do, which is read more. Johnny picks out a book, I read it to him, we get our time together, time we need together. And along with that, now I can praise Johnny for picking out a great book and sitting with me quietly and helping me read this book and becoming a better reader. And remember, the more that we feed that right attention in, the more of that behavior we're going to get. And so now I've got a Johnny who loves to read, who loves to spend time with me. And whatever he was doing over there, he's not doing it anymore. See how this works? And I know, like I said earlier, it seems underhanded and manipulative, but you want to do the very best thing you possibly can for your kid. This is how we get there. This is how we do it in martial arts. Now let's take some of those martial arts tactics and see how they can work at home. I forgot to mention why punishment doesn't work, another reason why it doesn't work. Now, you get paid, right, to do your job? So let's say that you do your job and you did a good job, you got paid for that week, and then the next week you didn't do your job, or you didn't do it right, or you messed something up. Does your boss come to you and say, hey, that pay I gave you last week, you didn't do a very good job this week, so I want it back? Is that what he does? No, he doesn't. He might dock your pay this week, or he might fire you or reprimand you or whatever, but he's not going to take something back that he already gave you. So let's imagine your child got straight A's and you buy them a tablet. 3 months later, they're misbehaving. Give me your tablet. Well, they already earned that. You can't take that away from them. This is just like your boss taking away your pay. And so your boss corrects your behavior not through taking stuff away, but through reward system, and that's through pay. And so we do the same thing with the kids. It's just like the belts and the tips. And so there's different tactics you can use for different age kids. And so, for instance, with my teenagers, we don't have to do it anymore, but when they first started using their phones, which are incredibly valuable to teenagers, what a great way to manipulate kids. Anyway, they couldn't have it in their bedroom at night. It had to be charged downstairs in the kitchen. And so when they go to bed, they plug it in, they go upstairs. Tomorrow morning, they check with us and say, did I earn my phone today? And the answer is almost always yes. I think once I said, I'm sorry you were disrespectful to your mom last night. I know you guys were having a fight and everybody got heated, but I can't let you have your phone today. You understand, right? And they go, yes, I understand. And okay, tomorrow, do a great job today. You get it tomorrow. And I think that was the only time we had to do it. Their phone is their pay. They get their phone in the morning as a reward for the day before. And the day before, the things they had to do. They have to take care of their schoolwork, take care of their chores, treat family with love and respect. 3 things. That's it. Now, those chores may be quite extensive and the homework may be a whole lot, but they're getting paid to do something as opposed to, you didn't do your stuff yesterday, I'm taking your phone from you. Now, it seems the same, right? But it doesn't to the subconscious. And so this is the reward system. Now, when my kids were little, it was completely different. At the end, and so the reward system, again, it has to be pretty frequent and has to be almost directly after the great behavior. And so we set things up so that when they come home at night, if they've done everything right at school, which at that age they always were, and then they had certain chores they had to do. They had to put their shoes in the shoe rack, they had to put their clothes in the laundry hamper, they had to get their pajamas out, they had to take their bath, they had to brush and floss, get their pajamas on, brush and floss. They have to get their lunch stuff ready for the next day, and they have to lay out their clothes for the next day. Once they've done that, then they get the reward. Now, for a lot of kids today, it's screen time, either TV or tablet or phone or whatever, and that's fine. Hey, you got all that stuff done, you treated your family with love and respect, here's your tablet or here's the video game or whatever you're gonna do. For my kids, when they were young, they wanted story time with me, and if you've ever been here when I've told one of my stories in class, they are pretty popular. And so my kids, and I have some really bizarre family stories about Uncle Tom and my brother and stuff like that makes people go, those are weird. But they're based on reality too, which makes them even more fun. And they're family related, so the kids love them. Tell us the story about Uncle Mark and the turtle again. Okay. And so every night they were getting oftentimes the same story over and over again, and that's what they wanted. And so, guys, I'm sorry you were bickering back and forth with each other earlier. That's not showing love and respect. So I'm afraid I can't tell you a story tonight. But I know that tomorrow you're going to do a better job. Yes, sir. And I say yes, sir. And understand. And they pout, and that's okay. But here's the other thing too. Whenever you make a consequence like that, you have to stand by it because they trust you until they don't. And they're not going to trust you if you don't follow through. If you say, if you do that again, I'm going to count to 3, and if I get to 3, I'm going to spank you, and then you don't spank them, they don't trust you, they don't believe you, and they know they're not going to spank us now. Or the next time that you do spank them, they're going to feel incredibly cheated by you because before you didn't spank them, why are you doing it now? And so it's important to recognize that you follow through with those consequences. This builds trust. This empowers them. This makes them feel safe and secure in their structured lifestyle at home. Now, my advice, don't have punishments. Don't make those consequences. You shouldn't have to if the reward system is good. I had one situation with Brendan when he was really, really young. He was refusing to do his homework. And it was that one time when he had decided in his subconscious to test the limits and see where they were. And I said, son, this is where you say yes, sir, and you get started. And he just looked at me. And I realized we were at that point. And I said, I'm going to count to 3. And in my mind, I'm going, I'm going to get to 3 and I'm not going to know what to do. I said, I'm going to count to 3. And if I get to 3 and you haven't started your homework, I'm afraid I'm going to have to spank you. And I got to 3. And so I did. I pulled him up, gave him some smacks. He's crying. I'm crying. Janelle witnessed it. She's crying. Never had that problem again because I followed through with what I said I was going to do. And Brennan and I are best friends today. And it's because we have that trust with each other. He knows where he stands with me, and I know where I stand with him, and it makes a big difference. And so you got to make sure that you follow through on those consequences. All right. So now, some ideas for you. Guys, you may have seen that we have these intent to promote forms that we give you. These forms it's a little sheet of paper, and it's got spots on there for you and for the teacher to fill out for the kid. And if they're teachers, or if they're middle school, they have too many teachers, so it's just you, but you're gonna keep track of their grades. And here's what I recommend you do. Put it on the fridge. And so now you're not the bad guy. If you have to correct behavior, maybe they're being lippy with you or whatever, and you go, oh man, you're not gonna make it, so I don't get this sign off on your intent to promote form, are you? Because I really wanna see you test, and it would really bother me if you didn't get to do that based on your behavior right now. And suddenly it's not your fault, it's theirs. And so they recognize that it's their behavior that's dictating what happens, the consequences that go along. Now, here's the problem with this one, though, is if you go, that's it, I'm not signing off on your intent to promote form, it's not going to work again the rest of this semester because now they know they're not testing, so they can behave any way they want. And so be cautious with your use of it. It is better instead to do something like I mentioned earlier with the cell phones or with the screen time and the reward system that way. And then you can do it again. Oh man, you're not gonna make it so I don't get to give you your phone in the morning, are you? Because I want you to have your phone at school tomorrow. And I know you can get the school to call me if there's an emergency or whatever, but I like the fact that you have that in your hand. Let's make sure that you fix this right now so that you can get your phone tomorrow. And boom, they get their phone tomorrow. And it makes it so much easier. Now, reward systems I recommend for little kids. Do the story, that makes a big difference, or do the screen time, it makes a big difference. And guys, if you have any questions on any of this, anything that I can ever do to help, it's not uncommon for people to call here at the studio, go, Master Brown, will you tell Joey to eat his broccoli? And sorry, it's a comma, I was playing around. And I'll say, okay, put him on the phone. Joey, this is Master Brown. Do you like broccoli? No, I don't like broccoli. But is broccoli good for you? Yes, it is. Master Brown eats his broccoli even though he doesn't necessarily like it very much, because I know it's good for me. Can you do the same and eat your broccoli? Yes, sir. So he eats his broccoli. And guys, if you call the studio and I'm not here, it forwards to my cell phone. And this happens more than you know, and I'm happy to help. And keep in mind, it takes a village to raise a child. And I want to tell you something from me. My staff and I are honored that you picked us to be a part of the village that is a part of raising your child. And we hope that you will count on us to help you in any way, shape, or form. If you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm always here for you. Thanks, and have a great day.